So maybe just taking a moment to settle in, bringing your attention to what's still here with you. Maybe there's still a lot in the mind from the moment before, from the days before. Whatever it is, just noticing it. And becoming aware of how you're sitting or how you're lying. How you're standing, if you're standing. Welcoming yourself to this space. Welcoming one another to this space. And just noticing what's in the mind, what's in the heart. What's in the body. This is what we call the full experience. This is your experience. What is present for you here right now? And this is exactly what we're here to tune into our own experience. And you don't have to worry about the time. I keep track of time for us, so you can just allow yourself to be fully here. If you're new to our group, I welcome you as well. It's good to have you here. And now maybe just taking in a deep breath through the nose. And letting it all out on a long, long exhale. And once again, taking in a deep breath. And exhaling long. And again, you're only breathing, going as deep as you can, only as much as your lung capacity allows. And then maybe one more time, taking in a deep breath. And seeing if you can exhale longer than the in-breath. Emptying up that belly. And now just doing a quick check-in with the body, noticing the body sitting here or lying or standing. Noticing the back of the body and any sensations that might be here, any tension or any tightness that might be here. And if you notice any tension or tightness, is it okay to soften around it right now? Can we bring a sense of ease to this part of the body? Now noticing the front of the body, and again, the same. Bringing your attention to any tightness, any tension. Softening up around this tightness or tension that you might encounter anywhere in the body, noticing the feet, the legs, the hips, the abdomen, and the lower back, where sometimes we collect a lot of tension. And again, this is an invitation. So there's here the practice of non-striving. That means trying too hard to get somewhere, bringing a sense of right balance. An invitation to let go, to soften around this tightness or tension. Moving up to the chest and the upper back. And maybe allowing the shoulders to drop. And this might be a moment to maybe adjust your pose, shift. Noticing the arms and the hands. Neck, the face and the head. The area around the eyes where sometimes we can hold so much tension also. The eyelids, are we squinting? And if you are, can you invite yourself to soften around it? Around this sensation of tightness. Now, whenever you're ready, just coming back to the breath. And this is not about controlling or changing the breath in any way. And noticing your breathing. We often use the analogy of a little puppy sleeping that we don't want to disturb. So really gently just turning the attention towards the breath. And this is when the awareness kicks in to notice my breathing fast, my controlling the breath. Is there a need for me to control this breath right now? And then coming to the understanding that the body breathes all on its own. There's no need any help from you. And allowing the breath to be just as it is. And as you sit here observing the breath, noticing maybe the rising of the body on the in-breath and the falling on the out-breath. The sensation of the air coming in as the breath comes in to the body, maybe coolness, maybe at the nostrils or the back of the throat. And then exhaling normally without forcing or changing, allowing the breath to go into the world. And most likely, if you're here, you are breathing. So there's no much for you to do than just sensing the breath in the body. And if while watching the breath, you notice agitation, fast breathing, whatever you notice, just allowing it and noticing how it changes on its own as you pay attention. Sometimes just turning towards allows for a shift. So if you're new to this practice, or if you're not new as well, you're going to notice that the mind wanders quite a bit, tells stories, gets caught in dreamlike states. So when you notice that you've distracted, that the mind is distracted away from the breath, from just observing the breath, what you have to do is just very kindly understanding that that's what the mind does, just putting your attention right back to the body breathing here. Focusing on where you might feel the breath, the rising and falling of the body. The feeling of the breath in the body. And this is just an object for our attention to rest on, something that is always with us. And they can easily kind of have as a compass for how our experience is. Is the breath fast? Is it slow? Is it deep? Is it shallow? Is it coming from the belly? Is it coming from the chest? There's no right or wrong way. Whatever is happening is perfect. And now shifting your point of attention to any sounds. Sounds maybe within the body, the breath, maybe the belly. Sounds wherever you are, the place you're inhabiting right now, the room. Sounds outside. Without looking for anything in particular, but just allowing sound to come to you without labeling it, but instead just noticing the pitch, the rhythm, the volume. Maybe the absence of sound, maybe silence. Maybe your own sounds be ringing in the ears that could be sometimes unpleasant. Noticing what rises for you. And every time you notice the mind wandering, and every time you come back to sounds, this is a mindful moment. So there's no right or wrong way of doing this. You're doing it perfectly. And it might take the entire time for you to notice, and that's okay too. There's a sense of kind attention, kindness to our practice, meeting ourselves where we are with compassion, with kindness. And then maybe now bringing into mind, contemplating, what am I aware of right now? And then maybe another question that you can ask yourself is, why am I practicing? Why am I practicing? And without looking for any answers in particular, just allowing whatever comes to you to be here. You have all the answers within yourself. How does this practice of awareness fit into my life? Am I able to find the time to practice during my life? How important is it to me? And then ask yourself, why am I practicing awareness now? And then allowing these answers to just gently come to you. And if nothing comes to you right now, that's okay. Meeting the moment exactly as it is. Taking in a deep breath, exhaling long, and allowing yourself to rest right here in the breath. Pablo Neruda, in his poem Keeping Quiet, shares with us the spirit of stillness and quiet. And he says, now we will count to 12, and we will all keep still. For once on the face of the earth, let's not speak in any language. Let's stop for a second and not move our arms so much. It will be an exotic movement without rush, without engines. We would all be together in a sudden strangeness. If we were not so single-minded, he says, about keeping our lives moving, and for once we could do nothing, perhaps a huge silence might interrupt the sadness of never understanding ourselves and of threatening ourselves with death. Perhaps the earth can teach us as when everything seems dead in winter, and later it proves to be alive. Now I'll count to 12. And you keep quiet, he says, and I will go. And even in this moment, thinking about this, it brings me to realize how hard it is even to keep up with the numbers without the mind wandering. The counting, and then there's still stories sometimes, and that's okay, right? The idea is that we recognize that that's part of our experience. So I wanted to, if you're new, I wanted to welcome you to the tribe. This is what we do. It seems like we're not doing much. We're just sitting here without doing anything, but we are doing a lot. We're doing what is known to be one of the hardest things for us humans, and that is to sit still with ourselves. And so during our time together, we practice formal practice, and that is turning towards your inner world in silence, watching the activity of the mind, becoming familiar with the habitual mind. Where does the mind go? What happens when there's stillness and silence? And noticing how we relate to the world, how we relate to others in this moment. So this is part of our formal practice, our meditations. But meditation is not mindfulness. Meditation, it is a tool to mindfulness. It is the instrument to mindfulness. Just like a piano is an instrument to play music. And you are ultimately the musician. And then when we're together, we also practice informal practice. And this is when we're out and about as well. We can practice this with others. That full awareness of paying attention, of being aware without judgment. And this is what we do when we go in our small groups, as I was saying. Paying attention and noticing what is in the mind. So tuning into the inner lens, both with others, when we're here, when we're out and about in nature, but most importantly, when we're alone. So by being aware of this inner lens, we can become aware of how we relate to each moment, moment by moment. Knowing that mindfulness is always there. So I'm not here to teach you how to be mindful, how to become more aware. Awareness is something that already exists in us. All we're doing is practicing how to bring this awareness into our regular life. So when we enter the world of mindfulness, we open up to many choices. We have all these to choose from. And then we're also working in impulse control without even thinking about it. Because then we might have urges that come up, even when we're practicing, when we're sitting, maybe moving, shifting, hitching. And then we're seeing what that is. We're becoming quite curious about our habitual pattern. Do I attend right away? Do I want to push this away and not have it here, make it go away? And the more we practice this, the more we stay with things, the more we build our resilience to be with the difficult. And it might start just very little like that, with just an itch on the face. So without mindfulness, without the sense of awareness, there's only one choice for us, and that is being in autopilot. That is constantly reacting to the moment. So you will hear me a lot talk about experience, and I'll say, let's focus on our experience. Let's tune into our experience. What I mean by that is your experience is how you feel in a given moment. What is happening for you right now? What is your experience? What is the emotion that you feel? How does the body feel? How is the breath? And that is how we go from moment to moment, and that is our experience. Everything else is the outside world. Everything else is part of the past, it's part of the future. But how we are in that moment, that is the present moment for us. And that really is all that matters. We can't do much if we're not here, if we're not aware. But as we practice mindfulness together in this space, we also have a framework that we work with, right? Mindfulness is not just awareness. And our framework are these attitudinal foundations that we've been practicing. Beginner's mind, non-judging, patience, acceptance, non-striving or right balance, trust. And then we're going to move on to also letting go in the next couple of weeks, waiting for that until the end of the year. But we do this, we practice in that framework. And so this awareness that we're having within mindfulness, when we're talking about the context of mindfulness, we're actually tuning in to our awareness when we're not in these attitudes. It allows us to know, when is it that I'm not trusting? How am I relating to this moment? And then maybe I'm not trusting, right? And how am I non-judging this moment? Am I judging the moment? Am I judging this experience? Am I judging others? Right. So these are all the attitudinal foundations that carry us over. And without them, we're just having awareness. We're just being aware. And so mindfulness is really to be aware of the present moment intentionally, because it doesn't just happen. But then there's a very key factor to this, and that's non-judgment. Non-judgment means that the mind is always going from I like, I don't like, this is right, this is wrong, or focusing on other people's experiences, or focusing on how the experience of the moment itself is bringing an event that triggers this resistance or wanting things to be different. So we're not judging the moment, and the mind will judge, but we're just becoming aware of it. And with mindfulness, we're able to stay with what rises in that moment. We're able to notice, there is judgment. And then that's okay, because then what happens is often we go like, there's a judgment about judging. And so we kind of want to be aware of this judgment and just kind of notice that that's just what the mind does. And then as we sit here with ourselves in this moment of, judging or not judging, we might be even judging without even knowing. And so mindfulness brings for these attitudes to really become a really important part of our lives. And this is what we've been spending the last 6 months practicing, one at a time for months. The idea is that you can go on into your life and also practice these attitudes. That also they will become part of you. The more we practice, the more we become what we practice, right? So we're practicing awareness of the body, the breath, the heart. And then we have this framework with the attitudinal foundations of mindfulness. And we take this on every time we're together and also when we go into our groups. This is our place to practice this because we're all in this community together. And we might be at different levels, all of us. Some of us have been practicing for a long time. Some of us have been practicing for a little time. Some of us are brand new. And so depending on how much you're practicing and how much this practice is part of your life, we're carrying the tribe over, the group, the community. We're carrying it over. We're holding that space for one another. And then there is a sense of acceptance. We're accepting also that we're all in at different stages in this journey, right? We're not all at the same stage. And this is when sometimes we might want to fix or advise or help even. And I often say this, if we're in the helping profession, this is a time for you. This is your time for self-care. This is a time when you check out from fixing, from advising, from anyone else. And we can say it's a bit selfish, but it's not. It's quite the opposite. Because the more you learn about yourself, the more you can be there for others in a kind, true, compassionate way. And that's really the framework. So the other two attitudes of mindfulness, generosity and compassion. And I often say when we go into the small groups that generosity is this part of us being with one another and making it safe. And what do I mean by that? We're on Zoom. There's nothing that can happen here, really. I mean, if at any moment you feel unsafe, you can always turn off Zoom and leave, and you're again at home and fine. So, but what I mean is that this safety comes, and this generosity to safety comes from being in tune with yourself, from knowing how you are at all times. And so that you're not in an autopilot, so that we're not responding to habitual patterns, but instead we're able to hold how we feel and be compassionate towards ourselves in that moment. And the more we do this, the more compassionate we're towards others. And so I think we've been practicing now for a while, and we're coming to the end of the year now. And as we do this, we kind of allow it all to sink in and to see, have I been able to take any of these attitudinal foundations for myself, whether it's beginner's mind, Remember, they're all self-contained. With beginner's mind, again, same thing. We're experiencing the moment fully exactly as it is, without our filter, without our perception. And so if you're new to our group, like I said, we record this session so you can go back, and there's a session on perception and how that plays into our group as well in our practice. And you can learn a little more of what all these different aspects that play into mindfulness. So mindfulness is not just awareness, because we can be aware and still navigate our lives full of tension and stress and fully reactive. Because now I can say, well, I'm aware that I am always focused on work, and that's okay. That's what I want to do. But maybe that is, and that's just an example, but maybe that is this focus on work might be a striving too much. Maybe it's a habitual pattern to distract, right? So then there is this awareness. You're aware, and you might think that some things are okay just by being aware, but mindfulness is a lot more than that. There is this huge awareness that holds mindfulness, but then there's this aspect of non-judgmental attitude towards ourselves. When we practice non-judgment towards ourselves, we're less judgmental towards others. And so this is the key with practicing mindfulness. And I think all this time we've been just practicing, and the idea is that we can practice with the understanding that mindfulness is experiential. So another thing that I often mention is, whether you teach or would like to teach mindfulness, or would like to, maybe you are already in a program, it's really about how much you practice. You can read 1,000 books, but it's fully experiential. And if we're not living through our life through mindfulness, then it's going to be really hard to share it with others. So this is one of the key aspects of mindfulness in the path of sharing mindfulness with others, that practice is key. And so today I just wanted to take a moment to really talk about mindfulness a little bit in this way, because I think by now we've been practicing, and that's the idea, that you get a sense of, what is this that I'm practicing? And now that we're ending, we're actually, in a couple of weeks, we'll be exploring the last foundation and learning how to cultivate letting go as the year ends. And I think it's very fitting that we'll spend time with that. And we'll see some ways to kind of, what is it that we need to let go? And we'll explore a little more of that as we go through the time together. But for now, I wanted to just, it is, last Friday was the last Friday of the month, but we still had Monday, which was the last Monday of the month. And every end of the month, we have more time in our groups to talk, to share. And so today I just wanted to open it really briefly for maybe some reflections, something that might have come up for you. And this is a part of the group, again, where we'll get to share from our own experience, from how I feel, and what does this mean to me? And what am I learning? How am I going? How is this challenging maybe for me? So this is it. So sharing your own experience means, what came up for you during this practice? How do you feel? How's the body? What's the emotion? What are some thoughts that might have come up? And we always share from our the first person. So we always say, I feel this way. I'm this is the emotion, it's all about me. It's funny, but really the sessions are all about you. So I thank you for being here, and for listening, and for your formal practice, for sitting with us. And